with our discussion of loops and timers, and we're about ready for a test in that. It won't be in that short week when we come back, especially because I'm going to probably test on a Tuesday during the lab period, but maybe the Tuesday in the week after that. So we might have a test, not the 18th because that's still break, but the 25th we might have the test that is on. It will be in the lab period, and it will have two parts, a sort of a loop part and a timer part. And so next week I will probably use at least one of, we will meet Wednesday and Friday, and I'll probably make one of those days a lab, maybe both of those days a lab, because there's not too much more for us to, there's not much that you haven't seen in loops and I want to present. It's just you getting more experience. Now, I remind you, is there a question? Probably the 25th. I will confirm it and put it in an announcement, but that's what I'm thinking of right now. I just have to look at what's going on in other classes, and I'll also ask you to tell me if you have something in your other major courses. So if that was the same day, probably won't be, because if it were the same day as, like, say, database, but you just had database, so it probably won't be. So this week we had homework. I will probably post, like I did before, some practice tests. So I will give you next week, at least one of those days I'll make a lab, maybe both of those days I'll make a lab. I will also post some practice tests so that you should be ready. Most people did pretty well the last time. And again, I want you to know what to expect and just to be able to get through it. Okay, so I will have still those standard things of make a comment and make it change the color and all those sort of things. The points for that will go down, but you will have two tests. There will be two parts to the test. So the points for one comment will go down, but you will have the same kind of comment in both programs. So it won't go down too much. Okay, so I remind you there was homework this week. Usually do Monday, but it'll be due Wednesday because we're off Monday and Tuesday. And one of them is this part with the factorial. And so you have the user enter a number. So fill this drop down with just some basic numbers, maybe up to 10. And then when the user chooses one, have the factorial displayed. I want you to display the calculation and do the calculation. That's a standard coding problem. So the actual calculation you can probably Google and find. So you will find the answer to the calculation part if you look. Maybe you should try to do it for yourself, but if you look, you will find it. And that's why I will focus that you must have the display part. Okay. And then the timer part of the homework was this thing with rabbits, or whatever you want to make it. I made it about rabbits. And so it was just, you have a timer sort of when the page starts. If you want a button, you can do a button, or you can do on page load. And then your timer once it starts, just keeps adding an image element. I used an old GIF with a transparency, so so my background was showing through, but that's not necessary. So whatever picture, you know, your favorite soccer star or whatever it is, you can just sort of start slapping up images. All right, so that was the homework. The lab is also due Wednesday. Everything's piled up on Wednesday because we have Monday and Tuesday off, but some of you have already done that. But we had the lab was that one of the second part was that sum, and we modeled a not the same calculation, but a very similar calculation on Wednesday. So that would be, and if it's on the video, so if watch the video if you're having trouble doing 7B. And I'll be around, not all day, Monday and Tuesday, but I'll be around if you want to Zoom with me or anything. Okay. So what we did on Wednesday, what we didn't get to on Wednesday was the paying off a loan, which is a while example. On the test, I will probably tend to put a for loop as my loop and then a timer. But so let's go. So the start for this, just the usual stuff of get the information up from the user that we need, that is here, and then we will write the loop. So we're going to imagine that we're getting a loan, and then we're going to sort of pay off. We want to pay off the loan. We want to know how long it'll take to pay off the loan. So I'm going to download that. And I need to put it in my right place. So it should be in downloads now. And I'm going to put it in my 230 folder. And there it is, loan payoff. So here it is, loan payoff. Okay. And what I have so far is I just sort of made the page of asking them how much is the loan, how much are they requesting in their loan. When you take out a loan, somebody charges you interest, and then you propose how much you're going to pay each month. So we're going to calculate the interest monthly. We are going to have the payment. So we're going to owe more because of the interest, but we're going to owe less because we're paying it off each month. And then hopefully it all gets paid off. And our question is, how long does that take? Now, there are formulas to figure this out, but we're not going to do the formulas. We're going to do a while loop. And the while loop, as we know, is our type of repetition when we don't know how long we're going to be in the loop. Because our question here is, how long is it going to take for us to pay off? Okay, so we have this head start. So I gave all of the sort of basic interface, and I have the start of a function, but all it does is say hi. Okay, so now we need, so that's the standard stuff we're used to, the interfacing. Now, the first thing we'll want to do in our function is collect the data from the user. So we will collect the amount of money for the loan, collect the interest rate that is being paid, and collect the monthly payment. So we need some variables. So we'll say let, I'll call it amount again, and we're going to the page. Get element by ID. I have to look up the ID, text amount. And I'm getting the value of that. And this is, they can take a loan out for $20,000.99. So in general, this would be a float. So if we want, we can go right away and say this is a number. And then we need the rate, the interest rate. So we can call it rate, we can call it interest. Let's call it rate, that's easier to spell. That's also, in general, a float, document, get element by ID, and then it is, what was the name of that ID? Text rate. And a value. And then the last thing was the monthly payment. So I'll say let pay, and again, parse float, get it off the page, document, get element by ID, text, what did I call it? Text payment. And that's dot value. So we're getting all of our information off the page. Save it. Close the Explorer. So there is, go to the page, get the text amount, go to the page, get the rate, go to the page, get the payment. So now we're ready. We've got all the information. So that's our standard, get the information off the page. Now we want to do what? We want to, I made this big long text area. So I want to show the progress of how much money we still owe as we're going. So so I'll say, you know, month 1, this is the amount that we still owe, month 2, something like that. So we'll be counting, so we'll need a counter of months. We have a monthly payment, but we need a monthly variable for counting. But we don't know, usually in our for loop, that's like automatically, we will automatically set up a counter. But in the while loop, it's usually not automatic, then it's counter, but we want a counter, so we have to set up a counter. So that's one thing we'll need is a counter. And then we'll pick it up for where are we starting at, say, let's say 1. And then we want a loop, and in a while loop, we have a condition for to continue. So what is our condition for continuing? So in our loop, we're going to be calculating the interest that we still owe. So we're going to owe some more interest. We're going to owe some less because we're paying off, and we will have a new amount of money that we owe. What is the condition? The amount. And what about the amount?
Well, that's the point where the
loop
reaches amount.
So, okay.
Well, amount is not equal to 0.
Okay, so if we are adjusting amount, so if we are saying this is how much we there's one way to do it where you would sort of be paying off until you got to some amount. But if we are adjusting the amount owed each time, then our condition is on the amount, and the amount doing what? You suggested something that I'll quibble with, but you suggested it equaling 0.
Not
Yes, yeah, you're right. To continue, we want it to not be 0. But we're not going to hit exactly the amount. The user's gonna propose a payment. You're going to pay off. The last payment may overpay. So we don't want to say 0. We don't want to say equals 0 because we might not hit that. So if we knew we were going to, like when we did our other problem, our depreciation problem, it was set up that we got exactly to 0. And we could get away with something like that. But here we might overpay. So that is our problem, is we need to adjust your condition.
would you think the amount and pay, like maybe amount minus pay or something?
But what's my condition is going to be either equal, greater than, less than. Those are conditions. Greater what? Less than or equal to 0. That would be for stopping. But our condition is for continuing. So turn it around. Greater than, if the amount of money we owe is greater than or equal to 0, or greater than 0, we continue to pay. Probably need me. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Not a problem. I should have done it before.
Trying to sneak in that. Does anyone, if anyone else has your favors, I can grab those. Thank you. Thanks for letting me interrupt too.
I don't know. All right. Back to it. So we are paying and we will continue to pay. So we're looking for the condition under which we will continue paying, and we will continue paying so long as the amount owed is still greater than 0. So we have a while and we have a condition. And our condition, we're going to be adjusting amount. We're going to keep changing the amount as we go. If we don't, we're going to be stuck in this loop forever. But while the amount, and I didn't write the whole thing, while the amount is greater than 0, while we still owe money, we will continue to pay. Okay, so what are we going to do? We owe a little bit more because of interest, and we owe a little bit less because we paid it off. So we have to do both those things. We have to add a little bit and subtract a little bit and make it the new amount. So amount, do you want to do a plus equal?
Yes.
He likes the plus equal, plus equal. So I'm changing amount. I'm going to change the amount by the interest. The interest is going to be calculated monthly. I'm doing a monthly thing. So my rate is, say, 6%. When you calculate, first thing is we've got to divide by 100 to turn 6 into 0.06. When you calculate monthly, you also divide by 12. So you're going to multiply your amount by the interest rate divided by 100 to turn it into a percent, and divided by 12 because we are taking that interest payment and breaking it up into 12 times. So you pay a 12th of your interest rate 12 times. That's how monthly, compounding monthly, that's called compounding monthly. So you take the interest rate. So I'm going to take the amount and multiply it by the rate and divide it by 100 and divide it by 12. And I better write some comments, don't you think? Okay. And then I'm going to subtract the payment. So subtract pay. Okay. So an interest rate is a percentage, so you multiply it by the amount. If I borrow more money, then the interest will be more. Not the interest per rate, but the interest calculated will be more because it's proportional to the amount. So amount, this is just a comment. And increase due to interest is proportional to the loan. That's why I multiply by, that's why, or I should say maybe amount. So that's why the first thing in there is amount. Then you multiply that by the rate. And we divide the rate by 100 to make a normal percent. To convert, I don't know, convert a percent to a fraction or something. So 6% is 0.06. On the interface, it said 6 for 6%. So we know we're entering it as a percent, and we know we have to convert it to 0.06 to do the calculation. And then we divide by 12 because the 6 is sort of for the year, but we're doing it monthly. So because it's compounded monthly. So we do it, so we calculate 12 times a year. So we're adding the interest 12 times a year, but we add 1/12 of our interest. And then we're subtracting off the pay. And what else? So this is the new amount. And I said that I wanted to display, and I also wanted to count. My counter's already at 1. I could have set my counter to 0, but I set my counter to 1. So I should display and then increment. Or if you want, if you say it makes more sense to me, if the counter started at 0, I can do that. You would rather do that. He would rather do that. He always has. So then I'm going to increment and then display. So there is my calculation of my new amount and my incrementing my counter, and now I need my display. I'm working with a text area. So I called it TA for text area pay. So document. I'm doing something to the page. So I'm starting with document.getElementID. What did I say it was? TA pay. I like in a text area to work with the value. Text area is the one thing. There are things that have inner HTML like divs. There are things that have values like inputs. The text area is the thing that will support both. I've had in my life better luck working with the value, so I will work with the value. We want to what? Plus equal. We want to keep adding to what we had before. I want the counter. I want the amount. Do I want any words? He doesn't want words. He doesn't like words. So we want to, I'm going to at least put in like a dot after my counter or something like that, maybe a tab. But so I'll put in some kind of a string, but we're looking at count and a dot after that, and maybe a tab, and then maybe a $sign. And then the amount. Let me put that on a new line. It's getting long. Amount. What am I going to do to amount? Money to fixed. And what else am I going to add on here? I added the $1 before. I've already got the $. What am I going to add? The \n, the new line, the escape sequence. All right, let's see what happens. So let's see if this makes sense. We said while the amount is greater than 0, we could and should have a bunch of questions up here. Like, did they enter a number? If yell and get out. Is the amount bigger than 0? If not, yell and get out. So there's a lot of normal interfacing stuff that we just sort of skipped over and got right to the while loop. But if I were on a test, I'd give you those other things. So while the amount is greater than 0, while we still owe money, we are calculating the new amount of money that we owe. If the amount of money we owe is going up because of the interest, the rate, the amount times the rate divided by 100 divided by 12, because I have to turn my rate into from a percent into a fraction. I have to divide by 12 because it's compounded monthly. And then I'm subtracting off the amount I pay each month. That makes the new amount. And I'm incrementing my counter, and I'm displaying my counter and the amount I owe, and it should end when the amount goes under 0. Okay, so here it was. Here's my just default numbers. I put in some default numbers to make testing it easier. I'm getting borrowing 20,000. So I don't know, that's a car or something like that. And paying 6%. I don't know what interest rates are these days. And I want to pay 400 a month. And I want to see how long it takes to pay off the loan. And this will be my sort of schedule of what I owe. So there it is, going down, down, down. And it took me 58 months to pay off. So I want to have a display underneath that tells me how many years and months. So I want to take that 58 and I want to say that that's this many years and that many months.
How was the first payment? 19,000. Well, what?
So I owed the interest rate, I owed some more. So I took my, where's my calculator? There's my calculator. I took 20,000 and I'm multiplying that by 0.06 divided by 12. So I owe from interest $100 more. I paid $400 in my payment, and so it's $300 less. That's, yeah. So one is this car is already decrepit by the time we paid it off, but okay, but I want to add under the text area, I want to say that's how many ever years. That was like 5 years, or so I want to break it up. I want to take this number of months and say it's this many years and this many months. So what do you want to div? Do you want to span? What do you want? Span. I heard span. And I'll call it SP. I don't know, time. So I'm going to figure out how many, what the time is, the number of months is in years and months, and display it here. So I'll start off the display part. That's easy enough. Well, let's do the calculation, then display it. Okay. So I have count, my number of months. I want to break that into years and months. What do I do?
So,
Count.
divided by 12.
Count divided by 12. So I'll say let, and that's going to give me like years somehow. I'm going to say let year equal count divided by 12. Is that what you want? And then let's alert it.
Um,
Let's see what this is. Okay. So that's not what I want. This is what I want. Here we are. Okay, so pay off that loan. It was 4.833 years. But I don't want that. I want the 4, and then I want to know the number of months. So how am I going to get the 4?
count. Tempted. No, that's that count divided by 12 and floor. And the next thing we want to do is count percent. And that's plus.
All right. So you know about percent. Okay. So we've got to teach everybody else about percent. So to get the 8, well, no, it wasn't 8, it was 4. To get the 4 years, we know 2 ways to do that. We know about percent and we know Math.floor. We know 2 ways to get the integer. What do you want? Math.floor. So that gets us the year. So quick test on that. 4 years, okay. Now we want to get the months. Make sure I didn't call anything else month already. Well, if I did, it would yell when I said let month again. So let month, there is a thing called the modulus, or it's like if you went back to 3rd grade and did division, it's the remainder. So if you're a fancy mathematician in college, you call it a modulus. But if you're old-fashioned and just remembering things from grade school, it's just the remainder. So you can divide by 12 and get the remainder. And that is count, as he said, %12. And let's look at that. So it was 4 years and 10 months. All right, and then let's put that in our display. Document, get element by ID. What did I call it? Span pay, is that what I called it? SP pay? No, SP time. Spans have what? Inner HTML. It's not a plus equal. I'm not giving some ongoing thing in a loop. I'm just writing this thing. And so I'll say your loan will be paid off in, and then a plus. Do that. Your loan will be paid off in years and month. Oops, I'm in cap lock. Months. So we did this calculation of the number, counting up the number of months it takes to pay off the loan. Then we divided by 12 and took the whole number part, and we divided by 12 and took the remainder, or the modulus. And that gave us the number of months after we took off the number of years, and then we're displaying that. Let's see. So I probably need a break here. I'd probably like it underneath. Your loan will be paid off in 4 years and 10 months. That was 58. 48 times 12 is, 4 times 48 is 4 years. Sorry, no, 4 times 12 is 48 is the 4 years, and then 10 more months. So that makes sense. Okay, and I overpaid a little bit. We can say something like you overpaid by blah, we owe you a refund if we want to do something like that. I wanted to put a break up here. I didn't like the way that looked. I still have a problem. What's going to happen if I decide that I want a very nice car? I'm going to get a $40,000 car, and I only want to pay $200 a month. I need a condition to tell me that I'm stupid. Well, am I stupid? What's going to happen here? I'm really and truly stupid. I get into an infinite loop. All right. So now he says that I'm stupid, or the user is stupid, or buying the expensive car. And we'll say no, exit the page. So I need to block this. I don't want to get into the loop I'm not going to get out of.
So we just put if pay is less than interest slash.
Right. So we're going up by interest and down by pay each one. And if that turns out to be a positive number, we're not going to pay off the loan. We're just going to go into debt. So we can borrow this if amount, blah, 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 blah. If that is what? If that is greater than 0, that means we will be owing more, not owing less. And what am I going to do? Alert and return. I'm going to yell and get out. And what did you want me to say? All right. Can't pay that one. But he's rude and I'm just copying him. All right. And return. Do not go to the loop if the loop is something you're not going to get out of. Okay. And let's see. So I wanted, what did I want? $40,000 car. Then I was going to pay $200 a month. And it says, oh, that's the wrong one. I'm looking at the wrong one. So I'm stupid for a different reason. Okay. That's right. I had to kill the page because I was in infinite loop. So I'm live servering again. Okay. So I'm going to pay, I want a $40,000 car. I'd like to only pay $200 a month. Did I save it? It seems to be. Or equal. Was I exactly on it or something? Yeah. I was exactly on it. Oh, my luck. Okay. Where am I at? So greater than or equal. Open with live server. It's a $40,000 car and I'm only paying off 200. I'm stupid. Okay. All right. So while loops, for when we don't know how many times we're going to be in a loop. Don't get into the loop if it's going to be an infinite loop. There are ways to get out of a loop I haven't taught you, but I can. There are ifs. There are ways to return takes you out of a function. There's a way to get out of a loop. Break or exit, yeah. So some languages have break, some languages have exit, and I have to remember which one is, but it may be break, you may be right. But there are ways to get out of a loop without getting out of the whole function. We just decided to skip the loop and get out of the function. But there are ways to get out of loops. All right. I think that is it. I think this program is done. We could say you overpaid by at the bottom. That's fairly trivial. Okay. Have a good break. Thanks for cooperating with all that photo stuff. I'm going to, as usual, hang out. Are there any questions for the recording? You want me to scroll? What? The if line. So the amount times the rate divided by 100 divided by 12 was the increase in what we owe. The payment, it was the decrease in what we owe. And if that difference is greater than 0, then that means we are going to owe the same amount or more, and we'll never get out of the loop. So we wrote our root message and we said return to get out. Anything else for the recording? No. Stop